Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Mind Hostage, a show where real people discuss real issues of overcoming negativity and a negative mindset. I'm your host, Stephen Payne, and I'm glad to be here with you today. Today's episode is brought to you by CBD 911, distributors of some of the purest CBD on the planet. With a 60-day empty bottle money-back guarantee, their CBD is certified organic, non-GMO. You can visit them at www.mycbd911.com. Hello and welcome to Mind Hostage. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a special guest, Zach Brasino. Zach is a United States Marine Corps veteran, an Iraqi war vet, and he's going to come on the show today and talk to us a little bit about his experience in Iraq. Zach, thanks for coming on the show. I hear you're down in sunny Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, it's sunny for probably about another 5 minutes, and then the rain's coming, and then who knows, snow after that. So
you never know in Texas, right?
Yeah, man, it's been so crazy right now. We're just here recently with all this back and forth. It's kind of it's hard to make plans.
Yeah, this time, for those of you guys that may be, in other parts of the states or maybe in another country, Texas kind of has all the seasons in 1 month right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so my girls wearing jackets the other day and kind of like the Christmas story, the little brother all bundled up, can't even hardly move. And then, by the evening time, it's hot and everything's coming off.
Listen, you might remember it's been some years back, but I remember a heavy freeze and probably one of the biggest snows that we've had here, particularly in the Central Texas area, on Easter.
Yeah. My wife, she was actually pregnant at the time, and she had to go to the store. I was out of town, and she actually ended up in a ditch because of that. Man,
wow.
It was bad. The roads were bad. It always gets icy here.
Well, and we don't know how to drive that well on ice in Texas, yeah. Right?
Give us some mud and we know what we're doing. But
yeah, right on. Well, hey, Zach, as I said in the intro, you're a Marine Corps veteran, and we thank you for your service, man. We appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate yours as well.
Yeah. For those guys listening to the show, I'm also a Marine Corps veteran. A little bit before Zach, but nevertheless, we served as brotherhood, and we actually share, something else, or we did share something in common. We in a Marine Corps motorcycle club, we share the Marine Corps background and the love as a motorcycle enthusiast for the open road. So
yeah, man, absolutely.
That's where we actually met. Again, thanks for coming on the show, Zach. The program is designed to help our listeners who may be going through some adversity in life to connect with our guests who have been able to conquer adversity through, a number of things, positive mindset, faith, whatever it is for you. And so, obviously you're on the show to share some of your journey with us. Can you tell us when that journey started, Zach?
Man, I think for me, it started at a young age. Both of my parents, growing up, we didn't have, my brothers and I and my sister, we didn't have the best of childhoods. I mean, we were loved, but both of our parents were, addicted to drugs. So that made it really hard on us growing up. We've had to overcome, not knowing what we're going to eat, for the week or even much less that day all the time. Fortunately for us, our grandmother is pretty much our backbone who helped raise us. My stepdad, came into my life pretty early, and he's been awesome. My aunts and uncles really took care of us. But yeah, I mean, like I said, as a little kid, you shouldn't have to worry about, man, am I going to eat today or what's going to happen, a week from now. You know what I mean? You should just be enjoying life, having fun as a kid.
Yeah, for sure, and it's unfortunate. There's a lot of people, a lot of children in that same predicament. Through different circumstances. I mean, for some, it could be the parents are trying to do the best they can, and they're having difficulty providing. But then I see more and more nowadays, particularly with the opioid epidemic, the way it is, that many adults, with children, have gotten so wrapped up in their addiction that they're unable to provide for their children, and not only that, their children don't appear to be, a top priority in their life.
Yeah, and absolutely, that's one of the reason. Like, since my injuries, like I've been put on medications, all these kind of pain medications and stuff like that. But I've been so scared of addiction my whole life, just because my parents were both addicts, that I was always scared to get hooked on some of these pain meds. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, if it's something that gets passed down, being an addict or whatever. I just always had that fear of becoming that, and then becoming what I always promised myself that I would never become for my kids.
Right.
So I'd take it for the first couple of days just to kind of get me through it, and then I kind of flush them just so I can, like, I don't want to become part of that statistic that, all these veterans are getting pushed on drugs that get addicted to them. And I mean, there are some people out there who truly do need them. But I myself personally, like I said, growing up around it, I didn't want to become that.
Well, that's a good point, Zach, because my experience, my past experience personally with the addiction, and with having been on opioids to treat my painful condition, I am an advocate for choice,
Right.
for our veterans right now that are heavily medicated on pain medication, or for being treated for PTSD. And so I advocate for the use of medical cannabis
Right.
as an alternative, because I've seen a lot of our brothers, man, out there, a lot of veterans on these medications that are committing suicide, and I believe that in large part is due to side effects from the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And to me, I actually just had this conversation with one of the parents from my daughter's school this morning. Um, she had asked me if I suffer from PSD, and I told her, so like I tell everybody else, I have my moments, you know what I mean, but I've learned to control them. And for everybody, it's different. For me, it could be like, hey, I'm gonna go be by myself for a couple minutes just to relax, take a deep breath, and think about everything. You know what? I have my beautiful kids, I have my beautiful wife. I have everything here to live for. You know what I mean? And that, to me, outweighs anything, like negative thoughts that may be going through my head that, unfortunately, some people have to deal with, and then they choose a different route. And I told her, I hate medications, but everybody needs to find their own niche. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it was hopping on the motorcycle and going with the brothers for a ride. You know what I mean? That to me was peaceful. That to
Right.
me, being around people who understand your situation. I play softball for an all amputee softball team. It's called the USA Patriots. We were formerly known as the Wounded Warrior Amputee softball team. And being around those guys, man, everybody understands exactly how you feel. You know what I mean? We're in the hospital. Doctors are telling us, man, I know how you feel. I know what you're going through. Well, no, you don't. You still have your legs. So you don't know what it's like to be in my position. These guys, everybody has been there. Everybody knows. So nobody's judging. Nobody's, you know what I mean? If you're having an issue, somebody's been through it.
Wow. So Zach, you said a couple things. One, you talked about, you're on some medication, or you had been on medication for some pain, and then you just now talked about it, kind of an amputee, scenario where you're on a softball or a baseball team for amputees, and that kind of brings us to, I guess the source of your injuries, brother. I mean, it sounds like, you're talking to me about being positive and, and overcoming some negativity by using positive thoughts, but there's got to be a pretty big story behind that. And as I understand, there was something that happened in November of 2007 that significantly changed your life.
Yeah, man. It was my second tour of duty in Iraq. I actually volunteered for both my tours of duty. And it's funny, my mom didn't find out I volunteered until a newspaper article came out about it. So I got in trouble there.
Whoops.
Yeah, she was reading it and we were all in the living room. So I was like, oh, man, I know it's coming up. So I tried to get in my wheelchair and wheel away. But, yeah, man, second tour of duty, it was a rough time for me. My father had just passed away. and I buried him the day before I left to go back to Iraq. So I actually got an emergency leave to go home and see them before we deployed. But yeah, man, 3 months into our deployment, there was 11 of us. We were there to train the Iraqi police department. We lived out in the middle of town, no running water, no, hot food to eat or anything like that. Maybe got to take a shower, once a week or something in an actual shower. We had a couple of civilians, contractors that worked with us. They were former police officers here in the States and stuff like that. They would live with us, and then one day, a couple days of the week, we'd take them back to the base to where they really lived. Like I said, they were with us temporarily during the week. So we had taken them back, had a nice hot meal. Ride home was, everything normal. There's 2 other guys in my vehicle. We're just talking about, man, hey, let's watch this movie later, or let's try. I'm gonna try to write a letter to my kid. Do something like that. Next thing you know, man, it's just we heard the loud bang go off. And right away I didn't know what it was. Kind of just felt like I got hit in the nose and kind of a little dizzy. And then I remember asking my guys if they were okay, and they were like, yeah. And I was like, man, that was an IED, just went off, man. And I remember after hearing that they were fine, I tried to put my hands up to my face to kind of like wipe away some of the smoke that was, quickly filling the vehicle. And my right arm wasn't coming up with my hand, wasn't coming up with the rest of my arm. So I looked down, man, and it was hanging halfway off. My legs started feeling really, really hot, like as if I was on fire, and kind of like really stinging, kind of like if your foot falls asleep, and it pains you a little bit, but just like so much worse. I remember leaning over out of the vehicle because the door we had was a 400-pound up-armored door that we had just gotten on there. It blew it off. And I started leaning out of the vehicle, and my gunner reached down and grabbed me and held me inside, and we were able to drive out of the zone to get to a little safer spot. And I remember getting there, and they tried getting me out of the vehicle. But once they tried getting me out of the vehicle, my legs were ripping because when the floorboard had blown up, it kind of mushroomed in, and my legs, what was left of it, was caught in the metal. So from what I was told, there was pieces of my foot in the back seat. They found one of my feet in the street. So they were trying to pull me out of the vehicle so they could, assess the situation and try to stop the bleeding. But they didn't know they were actually tearing parts of my legs, so they had to put me back in and reach in and grab my legs out from the metal one by one so they can get me onto the ground and, start working on me from there. Man, it was almost like a spiritual thing for me. I grew up in the Catholic Church. And as I got older, I had a lot of questions about, I guess, not just about God, just about everything, really. It was like, well, this doesn't make sense to me. Why? You know what I mean? And then after I got hurt, like I said, my dad died right before I left. And I swear, man, it was, I could see my guys working on me, looking up at them. And then right behind them, I swear I saw my dad just staring at me. And he gave me this look, like, and this little nod, like, hey, you're going to be okay.
Wow.
And then a sense of calmness just, like, kind of fell over me, and it's like, man, I needed that. You know what I mean? Because other than that, I think my shock and everything was sending me in the wrong direction. But, yeah, after that, after waking up finally, after all the surgeries, waking up in Germany, waking up again in Bethesda, I started realizing, man, there's a reason why I'm here. The EOD guys that showed up later told my guys, like, we don't know how he made it. With that type of IED that it was, he's not supposed to be here. So to me, I was like, man, there's a reason. Like, that right there was the kick in the butt that I needed, that God does exist. You know what I mean? Right. And everything happens on his time, at his will. You know what I mean? So that to me was like, man, my dad was looking over me. You know what I mean? And yeah. I saw that. You know what I mean?
So how long was it into this process before that really became clear to you?
I mean, like I said, right away, I started thinking, it's like, dude, why? Like, how did I survive that? You know what I mean? And more spiritually started coming more, because at that point, yeah, of course, I'm on all kinds of medications. They got me hooked up to all kinds of stuff, and I mean, because I was having surgeries every other day in Bethesda.
Wow.
And then I spent about a year and a half in San Antonio doing my rehab.
I bet
Learning to
that
go
was
off
a
of those.
process, huh?
It was, man. But fortunately, I was able to have my son there, who was 2 at the time. And before that, I maybe seen him 2, 3 times just from being deployed and stationed in Okinawa and all that, So that was right away motivation for me. You
Well,
know what I mean?
let me take you back. I'm going to take you back to the initial incident, if you will.
Yeah.
Because this program is really about as we conquer adversity and we go through the adversity. Us being human beings, that we have to struggle with our thoughts and things go through our head, doubts and questions and fears and that and we kind of fast forward through that a little bit, but I just am interested in, really and truly what was going through your head, with the first time you looked down and you knew that you had to at some point see and recognize that your legs were in really bad shape and I don't know if you didn't see your feet at that moment. What was going through your head?
I think fear. Fear of, I guess if you want to call it the unknown. I wasn't sure if, man, I'm going to have to live the rest of my life in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? I knew prosthetics. Yeah, I knew what they were. I never thought that I would have to be one to use them. You know, I struggled with the thought of that for a long time. Being in a wheelchair, being almost like I felt like I was going to be a burden to people. Because I was for a little while. My little brother, my younger brother, he quit his job to stay with me and take care of me. I mean, he wiped my backside. As an adult, it's kind of humiliating to have someone wipe your backside for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, he did that. He would literally pick me up and carry me to my bed, to my chair, to this, to that. You know what I mean?
That's
So
love. Yeah.
dude, I'm telling you, there's no end to the appreciation that I have, not only just for him, but for my whole family, who dropped everything to be there. I mean, that's definitely a time when I need that love and support. You know what I mean? Because that's where a lot of people would expect you to, either take your own life or to just completely give up. You know what I mean? And
were there times when you felt like maybe you couldn't go anymore?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But then again, like I said, there's my son. 2 years old. What does it show him if I give up like that? Do I want my son to grow up thinking he can be a quitter? No, absolutely not. And now I have 2 more beautiful daughters. What does it show them? They didn't know me with legs. My son knows me kind of with legs, and he's seen a lot of pictures, but it's pretty much all he's known as well. What does it show them if they grow up and face some kind of hardship in life? You know what I mean? Hey, if my dad can lose both of his legs this way and he didn't give up and he still busted his butt, you know what I mean, and lived a normal life, why can't we do it?
Yeah, that's got to be an inspiration to those kids.
Yeah,
What a
man,
legacy.
that's one of the biggest motivators for me is my family, especially my kids, because they're our future. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, if anything had ever happened to them, I want them to look back and be like, you know what? I can't quit. I can't give up on myself. I can't give up on my family.
One of the, first times that I met you, I saw this dude like you. I don't know how tall were you before the accident?
I used to be 5'9".
Yeah, so you must be taller now because you sure look taller. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I see this guy. He's young, good looking guy, barrel chest. You fit. He's got some guns on him. He's rocking some some cool jeans with some those shoes. What do they call those black shoes you wear?
The Chucks.
What's that? Chuck
The
Taylors?
Chucks. Yeah.
Man, so and I see this guy. riding beside me on the motorcycle, man, just all kicked back with his cool shades or whatever. And then I look down, and he's doing like this bicycle thing, right? He's riding along doing this like he's riding a bike, and and it caught my eye, and I look over, and what was really caught my eye is, the wind blew the pants up, off the Chuck Taylors over there. And I see these doggone prosthetic legs, and I thought, man, this guy is like rocking this bike. He's over there like he's riding a bicycle down the highway, and it just really hit me, man. I'm like, how motivated, how inspirational that, I'm sitting here crawling on, I got a sore back, and, my shoulder hurts, and, all of a sudden my pains went away.
Yeah, and I've always tried to make humor out of it. You know what I mean? Because what else can I do? I can't mope around my whole life about it. I remember being in the hospital, and like I said, I would go through moments of like, man, I'm okay with this, and then I'd be sad about it, or something would trigger me, and I was pretty emotional. But I remember, being in my hospital bed, and the nurses would come in, all hours of the day, and I'd ask them, hey, can you tuck that blanket in down there at the end of the feet? They're like, yeah, sure. And then I would scream, let out a big yell. I was like, oh, my feet, and freaking out. They're jumping. They're like, wait a minute, you don't have feet. And I just started laughing, and they would cry because they thought it was funny. And they're like, oh, you're jerk, but they would laugh. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that helped them too realize, like, man, it's not as bad as it should have been. You know what I mean?
It sounds like, you had some struggles, but it sounds like, just the support that you had and the mindset you had, that it really helped you power through early on, huh?
Absolutely. And because now, like I said, I look back and it should have been so much worse. I could not be here at all,
Right.
and that's the way I kind of look at it. And I think I have to. And I think I've developed the mindset too of something I've learned is there's always somebody out there who has it worse than I do. There's guys out there who lost all the limbs, or guys and girls who lost all their limbs. I can at least hold my children. I can hug my wife. I can hug my family. You know what I mean? I can hold my newborn babies. My legs, that's fine. I can learn how to walk again. Or the guys and girls who got burned and they're totally unrecognizable. You know what I mean? They can't be in the sun for so long. I have it better than they do. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for them. And I think that was a good thing too. My son was 2, and he saw me at the rehab center. He grew up seeing people of all kinds of injuries. It taught him that, it's a human being. It's still a human being, no matter what they look like, what they've gone through. He doesn't judge people if he sees them out in town now. You know what I mean? Now I get the stares of, little kids. It's always funny. They get their reactions to see my legs, or, hey, that man's like a RoboCop, or that man, is a robot or Transformer. I have fun with it. You got to.
Yeah, that'd be fun at Halloween, I guess, huh?
Oh, I use it all the time, man. Yeah. Since especially if there's like a peg leg that I can put on or something, and I sit there in a costume looking like I'm just a statue, and then scare them. It's all fun.
Man, I'll tell you that is exactly what this show is about, brother. Is people who have come through adversity, and everybody goes through it differently. And that's why we have different guests on the show, because everybody comes at it from a different mindset, and they may go through a different process, but at some point, for everyone who recovers and conquers their adversity, they have to have a shift in their mindset, whether it's from the beginning and they're counting their blessings like you, where you look around and you realize there's guys that didn't make it home, or you're in the unit and you see the burn unit with guys who are unrecognizable anymore. Or you just finally have had enough, and you make up your mind that you're going to change those negative thoughts. When a negative thought comes into your mind, that you'll pluck it out like a weed and replace it with thankfulness, or or just the courage, to take the next step. And so
Right.
that's perfect.
Yeah, man. Like I said, to me, like I said, I'm always going to have my family to think about. So that to me is more important than any thought I can be going through my mind. To me, it's kind of selfish. It would be selfish of me to put my own feelings first. You know what I mean? Because as a parent, I think I've learned that, my family comes before me. I'm willing to sacrifice myself for my family. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, that to me has helped me keep any negative thoughts I've ever had out of my mind.
So let me ask you, at any point along the way, I mean, because your support system's not there with you all the time, and I think with a lot of people that I find it's sometimes those moments when you're alone, when you're by yourself, and you don't have that support system there, and you're alone with your thoughts,
Hmm.
or in that, you had to kind of fight through some of that. Did you go through that where you really had to work to overcome those negative thoughts and to turn them around when you may have been alone and those the fear and the doubts and those things when you were hurting through having to work through the physical therapy and that?
Yeah, man, it's like I said, I felt that I was going to be a burden to people. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to put anybody else through that. Like I said, my little brother quit a really good paying job that he had at the time to be with me, to wheel me around, to take me to my appointments, to carry me up and down. You know what I mean? I didn't want to do that to people. You know what I mean? So that at that point, yeah, I was thinking, okay, I'll be a little selfish. Then I learned too that after losing people who, make that decision, you're not hurting yourself, you're hurting the people you're leaving behind. You know what I mean? So and like I said, yeah, I've made mistakes, here and there, thinking that I'm going to do this, they're going to do that, but I've learned from them. And one of the
Right.
things I've learned is mistakes are only, it's just proof that you're trying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it's like I said, it's all a learning experience, um, and then, like I said, it's showing my kids. It's like, yeah, we're gonna go through life and make mistakes, but that's how you're gonna learn. You can't go through life being perfect. You're not gonna learn anything.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Nothing, kind of nothing ventured, nothing gained, kind of a
Right.
mindset.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hey, Zach, you had shared with me before when we were talking about having to carry around, maybe some guilt. Would you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So, like I said, our team that we went with the second deployment, we were all really close. There was 11 Marines into our team, and we've developed, of course, that brotherhood, that we call each other, all the time. One of our guys, unfortunately, took his own life a couple years ago. He would call, or I would call him just randomly, like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" We'd meet up. He came to my wedding, him and his wife. Um, he would call sometimes, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, just like, "Hey, what's up?" "Hey, man, what's going on?" Of course, I'm going to answer the phone call. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and then I get a call from his wife one morning that she's in tears, and I'm thinking like, "Hey, dude, what's going on?" And she's like, "Hey, it's me. Lalo shot himself last night."
Wow.
It's shocking. I'm just like, "Wait, what?" And it takes me a minute to process what she's telling me. And I thought to myself, it's like, man, could I have helped him? Could I have called him just one more time? Would that have changed something? And then I get upset. It's like, why didn't he call me just one more time? Maybe I could have talked him out of it. Maybe, he's never mentioned wanting to do that himself. So I hadn't thought nothing of it. You know what I mean? And he has, two beautiful kids that he, unfortunately left behind. And I'm always going to live with that too. It's hard to talk to his family like, man, I'm sorry I couldn't do enough for him. You know what I mean? I'm sorry I couldn't recognize that he was at this point. Another situation was one of the guys that saved my life the night I got hurt, had gotten out, of the Marine Corps, went back as a contractor and was doing some security work and ended up getting killed in an IED attack. And to me, this man saved my life. Like, I'm forever grateful for that. I owe him, everything that I am. Um, when he died, I had a guilt, I was like, man, I could never repay him. Like, I wasn't there for him when he needed me. I almost didn't go to his funeral because I couldn't look his parents in the eye and tell them, it's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to help your son. He helped me in a way that, I'm so grateful for it. But I couldn't help him, and they told me, both of them looked me dead in the eye. I said, you have nothing to feel guilty about. Like, you couldn't be there. It's okay. But to me, is in my heart, is like, man, if somebody saves my life, I'm going to be damn sure to do everything I possibly can to be there when they need me.
Exactly. And you felt like you couldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I live with that all the time. I mean, I see his name on my arm. I have his name tattooed on my arm and everything as a reminder. And, um, like I said, it's just every year, the day I got hurt on my anniversary, we call it a life day. I text my guys, I call them and say thank you. You know what I mean? Let them
Wow.
know that I'm still grateful, Dan, because my kids wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? It's something I always make sure to do.
I think that it sounds like that grateful spirit, that spirit that you have, where you're thankful, that good soul, that kind of really helped you through this whole process. Because it's funny, in contrast, I see other people who are going through things. They're in the midst of, most of the time, troubles that are from our own doing, our own bad decision making, and they really dwell in that negativity. They dwell in that moment, and it's almost like a self perpetuating kind of a circumstance where they dwell so heavy in that negativity. And one thing I see, about folks like that are that I don't know that they really stop to look at the things that they have to be thankful for.
Hmm.
And I see someone like yourself who, from the beginning, when you looked over and you saw that your guys were okay, the first thought that went through your head was, "Hey, are my guys okay?"
Yeah,
And
and it's when I got to the hospital, I remember asking them, "Hey, are they okay? Like, is everybody okay?" And they were pretty much, the docs tell me just like, "Hey, shut up, like, just relax, you know, everybody's fine. Like, we have to take care of you. We have to." But to me, like I said, if I'm fortunate that of course, I'm still alive. You know what I mean? I'm fortunate that it wasn't as bad as it should have been. And I'm fortunate in a way, it may sound weird, but I'm fortunate that this happened to me and not one of them. I think I told you before that, of course, if something was to happen to them, I'm going to do what I was trained to do to help save their life. But my heart, like, I don't think I could see one of my guys sitting there like that in the state that I was in.
wow.
So I mean, like I said, they just mean that much to me that I couldn't, have the heart to see them like that. Um, but even them they have been a great support system. You know what I mean? We constantly text each other all the time. It may be something stupid or updates with the family, like, hey, we're having another baby, or something like that. What's going on? We always try to stay in contact with each other,
Yeah,
and
what a blessing, man.
yeah, absolutely.
That says a lot about your character, but their character as well.
Yeah, yeah, man. Like I said, and it all comes down to what kind of legacy am I leaving for my kids? They tell stories about me if they decide to later on, be like, hey, my dad did this or that, and that's where I get my my never give up attitude from, or just being positive. Like I said, you gotta take whatever happens with you and try to make something good out of it.
I've known you for a while, and I'll have to say, I don't think I've ever seen you with a frown on your face, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it goes back to somebody out there has it worse off than I do. So, I mean, and like I said, I have a beautiful family, so I can't really complain too much.
It's
Haven't
not.
hit the lottery yet, but I mean,
Well, in a way, I think you have, brother.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, and I know you know that. You got those beautiful children and beautiful wife. You've got, like you said, your life, and I know you're thankful. You're a humble man, and so you have hit the lottery.
yeah, absolutely, man. I see it in that way. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I was joking about the other.
No, man, I'm with you. I guess I have to play to win, though.
Yeah,
That's
I
my.
guess. Yeah, it's still a way to increase your chances.
Well, brother, you have been an inspiration to me, and I have no doubt that you're going to continue to touch lives. I personally feel like we're going to go through adversity in life, and God doesn't cause that, but He does is bless us through that, and how we grow and how we learn and how we are able to help other people. That's why I've dedicated myself to helping other people. That's why I've dedicated myself to starting this program, because
Yeah,
I think when we focus more on other people and we think about and put their needs first,
Hmm.
then ours tend to fall into place.
Yeah, and I've learned one thing that has helped me too is praying, man. And sometimes I feel like, man, I prayed about this. How come nothing's happening? Nothing's happening. I prayed about it. I prayed about it. And then one day, something happens. It's like, hey, wait a minute. I prayed for this. You know what I mean?
So it doesn't
And
come in
one of
our
the things,
time frame. Is that how it works?
dude, that's exactly. One of my favorite movies is Rudy. The guy at Notre Dame playing football,
Yeah.
and he's trying to everything he can to get into Notre Dame and praying, praying, praying. And he's talking to Father Kavanaugh. And one of the things he says, one of the best things I've ever heard, and puts it in perspective. It's like praying is something we do in our time. The answers come in God's time.
Oh yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, and then you think about it, it's like, dude, yeah, what would we be like if we prayed for something and boom, right away? We'd be spoiled. There would be, all kinds of craziness, more craziness, I guess, going on in our world if it was that easy.
Well,
Sometimes God's answer is to not give you what you're praying for because He knows, hey, this is the way. You know what I mean?
well, you might,
It's going to benefit you.
some people may be praying for the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That he's not going to give you everything. He's going to give you what is best for you, what benefits you, what he believes is the right thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that to me has really helped me out, and that
That's
line will
awesome.
always stick to me, man. It's praying is what we do in our time. The answers will come in God's time.
Well, I work, and have ministered, to men recovering from substance and alcohol abuse, and men, that are struggling through PTSD. And when it comes to prayer, that's one of the questions that comes up. And you know, I think the one of the most important parts about prayer is if we truly believe that God's going to provide and hear our prayers and answer our prayers in the way that He sees fit, the our job is to let it go and trust and walk
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
faith. And if you're still walking every day in doubt and fear and negativity and guilt, and you're hanging on to that, you haven't let go of it so God can deal with it. So you're going to have to
Right.
wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, there was a time too that I didn't know how to pray. Almost I felt embarrassed to say that. And then I was talking to my brother's friend, who's a pastor of the church. It's like, how do I pray? And then I've asked this of a lot of people too. And the best thing I've heard is just talk. Open
Yes.
up your heart. Open up your heart, man. And that's it. Have a conversation with you and God. That's it. Have a conversation. Let your heart open up. Say what's on your mind. And I truly believe that's what's helped me, like I said, along with my family and all that, get this far.
That's awesome, man.
And I remember my grandma always saying, "If God's willing, if God's willing, if God's
Uh,
willing." So that's always in my head.
if He's willing, yeah, He's willing. If it's right for us, like you said before,
Right.
that's important.
Yeah. That's where I was going with that.
Zach, you've been an inspiration. I thank you for sharing your story. I'd ask you just, kind of one thing that maybe you'd like to leave our listeners with, kind of a word of advice as people who are going through many different things right now. This is a tough world. Maybe, somebody is in a bad relationship, or they're in a bad job, or unemployed, or maybe they lost someone, or just a number of things. They've lost their self confidence, whatever it is, and they're going through. Kind of what's one thing that you'd like to leave them with before we end the program?
I would say try and make a difference. Um, like I said, I'm trying to make a difference in my kids to give them the message of it's okay to find a bump in the road. It's how you answer back and get over that. If you see someone, showing signs of needing help, reach out to them. I tell my son, if you see a kid eating by himself at school every day, all day, or every day, go have lunch with him. You could be the highlight of that kid's life. What's going on? You never know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, that could be the kid that comes back and does something awful. But by you going over there and sitting with him, having a conversation with him, you could totally change his life. If you see someone getting bullied, go stand up for them. If they are not able to stand up for themselves, if you see somebody struggling, reach out your hand, reach out your heart, and help somebody. You know what I mean? Is make a difference, a positive change in this world to leave behind for our kids to grow up. because I know I don't want my kids to struggle.
That's powerful, man. Thank you very much for that. That's very, very powerful. I
Yeah,
think
thank you, man.
that's
Like I
good
said,
advice.
thank you for this opportunity. And like we had mentioned earlier, or just the other day, man, I think it's God put us here for a reason, man. He put us in contact for this. And like I said, I just want to thank you for the opportunity of this, and my family, my beautiful wife, and our 3 kids, and we have another one on the way in September.
Hey, shout out to those guys, and shout out to your family, and man, yeah, I thank you for coming on, and look forward to having you on the program in the future, Zach.
Yeah, man, we'll look forward to it.
All right, brother. Have a good day, and thank you. Thanks for listening, Mind Hostage fans. We hope you'll tune in the future, and you'll check us out at www.mindhostage.com. Check out our blog and our website, and check us out on Facebook at Mind Hostage. Also, don't forget to check out our friends at MyCBD911 for the purest CBD on the planet. You guys have a rockin' day.